Hey, I'm Kai, and today I'm checking out Mooer's brand new mini modeler, the M1 Minimax. I've demoed a few of the different Mooer modelers now in various different form factors, and I think this may be the one that makes the most sense. As always, I will pepper some of these stock presets in the unit throughout this video, but I'll also dial in my own presets later on. I should first mention this is of course a sponsored video, as Mooer have sent me over this pedal to check out. That said, I will always share my honest opinions on this sort of thing, for better or for worse. Something I'd really like to highlight and frame this review with is going to be the price of the unit. This Mooer M1 comes in at just £84 here in the UK. I expect that'll be about $99 in the US. The price of this unit puts it in the same bracket as things like the Harley Benton DNA FX, the Valiton GP100, and the M-Wave Black Box. However, when you narrow that list down to the ones that are portable and rechargeable, the Mooer M1 really starts to stand alone. Looking at the actual unit, you've got a mono input, a stereo output via TRS jack, a USB-C port for charging, as well as a volume rocker. On the front face of the unit, you've got the 2-foot switches, which are going to be your main navigation for most of the presets. You've also got the 2 buttons on the front. One of these is going to be your power button, and the other one will control things like the drums and the looper. It's worth mentioning as well, the USB-C port can be used for on-the-go recording with iPhones and Androids. The LCD screen doesn't show you a ton of information, but it gives you what you need. It lets you know which patch you're on, your battery, and the charging status. With no knobs on the unit, it does mean that most of this is going to be controlled by the mobile app. This means that the unit wouldn't be super viable for a live situation, unless you're the kind of person who just has it set and forget beforehand. I would say this would work perfectly in something like a rehearsal situation, or pretty much any at-home situation. This unit has 128 different effects for guitar, as well as new for this unit, 21 effects for bass. I don't know if I've ever played bass on this channel before, but since this has new bass models, I'm going to have to check them out later on. None of these stock presets are configured for bass, so if you do want bass presets, you're going to have to download them elsewhere, or just create them yourself. This Mooer unit lets you load in your own impulse responses, which is something that's absolutely crucial for most budget modelers. It really opens up the versatility of the unit and gives you a much better shot at getting a tone that you're happy with. Being able to control everything on this unit with the phone app is great though. I really enjoy this workflow and it works really nicely for me. I found the connectivity with the phone app to be pretty much perfect with no drop connections or anything like that, and the app itself works really nicely. So let's go over the app. After connecting everything up, you'll be presented with this main preset view. You can tap on the list and open up any of these stock presets. You can also navigate these presets using the 2 buttons on the front of the unit. These will just switch you up and down. We can tweak all of the blocks in the preset from this view, so for instance, if I wanted to change any of the amp parameters, I click on the amp section and then it opens up with all of these. We can also swap around the position of any of the effects through the app, so if I go over to my delay block, tap and hold it, I can then drag it, and I can run this one before the amp instead. We can also change the models here, so if I put the delay back to where it was before, go over to my reverb block, engage that. Let's see what that sounds like on the stock room model. So I'll quickly flip through some of these stock reverbs. The app does control 99% of what you need on the unit, so if you tap the M1 icon in the top left corner, you can then open up the tools and you can access things like your metronome, your drum machine, your tuner, and your looper. The only thing you'll need the desktop editor for is going to be loading impulse responses. So I've loaded up a few of them already just so that I don't have to faff around with the computer for this video. We'll hear what that sounds like when you switch over. I did notice that the impulse responses are quite a lot quieter than a lot of these stock cabinet models, and since the cab block doesn't have a volume control, you have to do this from the amp block instead. There are a bunch of extra presets in the library tab up at the top here, so we can go through these and pick something else. Let's say if we go through the rock section, we've got ADC, Come As, Broken Road. These are all pretty obvious what they're going to be named after, so we'll go for the Come As preset. I won't go through every one of the settings available on the app, but you can change things like your global cabinet bypass, your global EQ, as well as the input gain, sleep settings, Bluetooth, and updates and stuff like that. Quite a lot of things you can do with just the app. One cool feature as well is that you can load presets from the cloud straight from the app. However, I'd be quite careful with these as they can vary in volume quite a lot, so be sure to have your guitar on the lowest volume before clicking on any of them. Oh, you can also audition them straight from the app without having to download them onto your device first, so you can figure out what works for you first. I'll click the V at the top, which is going to be our verified presets, and then on Nico Twin Chorus, I can press the play button and it will load the preset for me. I'm now going to rapid fire through a couple of my own presets, so I'm going to go for a pop punky thing with this PRS S2. I know the first thing I'm going to want to set is the cabinet, as this is the most important part of my tone personally. I'm going to pick the ML SoundLab Mega OG Mix Tight. Now for the amp section, I'm going to scroll through the list and see what sort of thing I'm looking for. I think Rockaverb could be a good choice, so let's hear what that's like. It's not my favourite sound, but it's working quite nicely, so we'll just press on. I think really all I need for a pop punk tone here is going to be some wet effects, just to get that sort of octavey lead thing going on. Let's add in a delay and a reverb block. We're going to go for the plate reverb and the tape delay. That's working fine. I'm just going to save that as is and we'll move on to some bass tones. But first I need to save this preset. Now one unfortunate thing is this unit doesn't come with any sort of empty user presets, so you do have to overwrite the stock presets in order to save your own. So we're just going to do this. I'm going to hit the save icon and then type in my preset name. I'm just going to call this Pop Punk. We'll hit done and then that one's saved. I'll now switch over to the bass and we'll try and dial in something for that. So this bass is probably very rarely seen on this channel. This is the Harley Benson MP4 EB Enhanced Bass. Since it's currently tuned down to drop C, I think I'm going to go for something rocky pop punk with this as well. For the cabinet, we're going to pick the Aquila 7B, and for the amp, let's have a flick through and see what we've got. I think I like the idea of going for an SVT, so the Ampog SVT4 should be a good pick here. Okay, so I've landed on the Ampog SVT4, and the cabinet I've gone for is the matching SV810 with a 121 microphone. I'm going to also add in a touch of compression, so this is going to be under the Dynamics tab. We're going to go for the Comp, drag it before the amp and cabinet, just so that we can tighten things up a bit, smooth things out. I might also try adding a drive block up in front, and we'll disable the compression for now. Let's go for something fuzzy. I think the Muffy might work nicely for this. Let's try that. Definitely a lot of fun. I don't know if that's a fantastic bass tone per se, but it works for the purposes of this unit. I do want to try out some of these other bass amps since they are new, so we'll see what they're doing. We'll go for the SVT valve instead. Having flicked through them all, I do think the SVT4 is my favourite, so we'll stick with that. Okay, so I'll do a final playthrough of this preset and then we're going to save it. Okay, I'm going to save my preset now, and then I'm going to try out some of the library presets for bass, just to see what everyone else is doing with this. Under the pick bass tone, the names are really hard to figure out what they're based on, since they're just named pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, and pick 4, so I guess I'll try number 1. Now I'm going to try another one, let's go for pick 3. Let's also try one of the heavy bass tones just for fun. Let's pick heavy 3. So again, I'm not finding these tones to be massively inspirational or anything, nothing groundbreaking, but it's working really nicely. I'm going to switch back over to a guitar instead and go through some of the frequently asked questions I get on modeler videos. I always get asked about the gap when switching presets on units like this, so we'll try that out and see what it's like. Yeah, I'd say on this unit it's not too bad at all. It's barely noticeable, and even when you do notice it, it's nothing that's too intrusive. Another one that comes up a lot is the quality of the pitch shifter. Now this is something I had a major issue with on the Mooer GE150, was the fact that you couldn't move the pitch shifter. On this unit you can, so we'll try the pitch shifter before the amp and cabinet and hear what it's like. Whoever decided to set the pitch shifter on a smooth slider that goes in increments of 0.1, terrible idea. Anyway, I digress. This is what it sounds like when it's tuned down 2 semitones. Definitely not an amazing pitch shifter, but let's see how it fares against single notes instead. Yeah, even when you cover it in effects like overdrive, delay, and reverb and stuff like that, it's still not an amazing sounding pitch shifter, but it'll work if you need it to. As far as I'm aware, this unit doesn't have any sort of DSP constraints. You're limited to the amount of blocks that you have in your chain, but you don't have anything like a DSP cap like you'd have on something like the Helix Stomp, for instance, or even the Fractal devices. The actual blocks in the chain are able to be moved around, as you saw earlier where I put the delay before the amp. However, you can't change the type of block that it is, so you can't have 2 delays in your chain, for instance. The tuner is supposed to be accessed by tapping the power button, but this doesn't do anything for me, so I've had to actually access it from the app instead. So we go into the tools and access the tuner, and I found this tuner to be pretty poor really. I might be able to get that one on the B cam actually. So as you probably saw on the unit itself, you can't really get a granular control over the tuning at all, since it's just the higher or lower sort of thing. It doesn't really tell you when you're in perfect tune, but it tells you when you're in the ballpark. The app is a much better tuner though, so you can just use the app. Another thing I get asked about quite a lot with modelers is the frequency of updates. Now, Mooer are famously not great at updating their units. They'll maybe do 1 update per unit, but I wouldn't expect to see any for this Mooer M1. Buy the unit for what it is, not for what you expect it to be. So I'm now finally going to get onto my conclusion for this unit. I think this is probably the best form factor for the Mooer modelling engine that I've tried so far. 2 foot switches is more than enough for this to be able to be used as a backup rig, something that you can just chuck in your gig bag just in case your pedal board goes down. You could use this as your full live rig if you really needed it to be, however with the phone app control this is kind of unintuitive to use in a live situation. I do think this could have done with more effects units. There's a lot of areas like the delay and reverb where it really feels like you're lacking and missing some of the staples, like a big ambient reverb for instance. This pedal does have a fairly limited functionality, but it's a great way to get in and experiment at a very low price point. I found the tones to be quite narrow and quite lacking, but usually you can fix that with third-party impulse responses. I didn't find that to be the case with the Mooer M1 though. Still, for just £83, I'd say this is an excellent introduction to the world of multi-effects. So that's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for sticking around to the end. If you'd like to check out another one of my videos, there'll be a link on screen for you to do so. That's all for this one though, so until next time, I've been Kai.